All right, it is time for Friday Reads. Hey everyone, it is Shannon, and I'm super excited to be here and to share with you this video. In my Friday Reads videos, I share how my reading has been going, including what I finished, what I've started, and anything interesting about what I'm carrying over week to week. This week, I don't have a little bit of everything. Usually I have a little bit of everything, but I don't this week. Which one will be the miss? We shall see. It's the big focus continues to be working on the titles I'm currently reading. As of last week, I believe I had 5 with finishing station 11. So let's see how this week got on, and we're going to start with the finishes. So first up, I did finish Story of Your Life and Others by Chiang. This is a collection of stories and actually it was published way before than I thought. It was published in 2002, and some of the stories were published as early as 1990. And then originally published and then put together. So I picked this up many years ago. Well, not many years. I read the title Story of Your Life, in 2015 when the film Arrival came out. I was doing a book to film challenge that year, and my video for Story of Your Life and Others is still up, and it's one of my highest viewed videos, and I can't remember if it is. It's in my top 3, and I have not watched it in a long time. I will leave it in the cards should you wish to watch it. I'm like, gosh, like that feels like so long ago. Anyway, and then I put the book aside, and then I actually lent it out, and then I got it back and I started reading it, I think last early winter, like January-ish, because I realized, hey, this is like, because it's actually on my sci-fi, fantasy, and weird exploration list, and I realized I started it, but I never finished it because I read one story, but the goal at the time was just to read the one story. So anyway, I did really enjoy that story, and I did really enjoy some of the other stories. I wish I had made a notation. I think it was Division by Zero or Understand that I really enjoyed. The one, Hell is the Absence of God, is fascinating. Absolutely fascinating, but pretty tough. But that would also be an excellent film or miniseries. Real, but it's one of those, it's a, you can tell by the title, it is definitely a topic people are divided on, or people feel strongly about, let's say it that way. Overall, but there were some ones that I actually was not a fan of, in terms of like, one, I know there was one where it was just sort of like disinterested in the topic or the perspective. I was just like, oh. And then when I read the notes, I'm like, that's what it was about. And then I didn't really like the last one. And I have a complex reaction to it that I'm still processing. But overall, they're all extremely well written. This is speculative fiction, and it is science fiction, but it's speculative fiction because it's all sort of like, what if this happened? What if that happened? And sometimes that's explained through science, but sometimes not necessarily, but it usually has a more scientific approach to it. And there is a lot of, science language and ideas and that kind of stuff throughout. Overall, I am really glad that I finished it. I feel a little complicated that it took me this long to read it. I did fall into a better rhythm when I sort of was like going to read one story a week. That was much better than me. And I think because I was so focused on reading the Conan collection this year, that was what I put as a priority, because that was 1,000 pages. This was like 300 pages, or just, I think it was actually 280. It's weird because it's like, I loved Story of Your Life so much, and I love the film, that I was really a little sad that some of the stories didn't quite resonate with me. Sometimes in terms of topic, sometimes in terms of my reaction, and like it was sort of interest level. And I will say that a lot of these ones, especially the last one, like it is science fiction often as sort of sometimes as social commentary or a question about society, which I am coming to realize that that's not necessarily my the type of science fiction that I enjoy or the type of speculative fiction that I enjoy, especially when it's something that is or could be or is something going on or has been going on or something talking about something that had gone on. This is a bit more future thinking as opposed or like, I don't know if that's ever going to be possible kind of thinking. But for me, and this happened when I talked last week about Station 11, which is no fault to its own, like it didn't know that there was going to be a pandemic. But for me, with both of them, one of the challenges is for discussions about things that are going on now or issues society is facing, struggling, evolving, devolving around now. I want to talk about what's actually going on. I don't want to talk about it in a speculative fiction type of way. So I think for me, I've realized now that speculative fiction, whether it's science fiction, speculative fiction, or fantasy or urban fantasy, the kind that I like a lot more is more like adventure stories with science, magic, action, adventure, intrigue, and magic and science or whatever it may be, like a speculative fiction element. So more like urban fantasy, long arc plot over 10 different books and lots of shenanigans. That's a bit more my pace. Now, I think this was great. It was great. And the title story was great. And at least two of the other stories I really, really enjoyed. But I guess it's because, but it also, I will say this, it also might be like my reaction about that. I'd rather talk about that in a nonfiction sense. I'd rather read nonfiction works. I would rather read essays. I would rather have discussions with people. I also know that that's something that I want to be doing more of. And maybe when I start doing more of that, I will be more amenable to reading speculative fiction that's about social issues. Because honestly, a lot of speculative fiction is because a lot of times that's how people were able to talk about it and potentially connect with people about it, as opposed to being very straight, like really like face on about some issues. Some people, sometimes it's easier but I often feel lured in. Like I often feel like when I realize something is like a message, like story, often about like whatever, if there was a lot in the sort of like 80s, 90s about environmentalism. And I'm like, I'm already like, I already agree with you. You didn't have to hook me in on this. You didn't have to sucker me in on this to prove a point. I agreed with you and I thought we were going on an adventure. So, but that's okay because it's helpful for me to realize what's important to me in the stories and what I'm looking for now, and it doesn't mean it's not good or anything like that. It just means it's not the type of work that I'm looking for. But like sometimes stuff like that can be super engaging. Like one of the things that I absolutely appreciated about this was how smart it was. Like it actually really made me think, not just about the social issues, but about the science stuff too, and the speculative fiction stuff too. It's like, what would happen if that happened? Like it actually engaged my mind, and I don't feel like it was trying to trick me. I don't. Everything was very like clear in terms of what it was talking about. So I didn't feel lured in or anything by it. But I just, historically speaking, it's something that never sits well with me to feel like I was, and I also know that it's one of the risks I run by reading things without doing a lot of research ahead of time. So sometimes it's alluring, sometimes it's just not researched, but I don't like spoilers. So, but like if someone says that it's, what's that called? Not an analogy. Oh, it's like, the subgenre of Watership Down. Like Watership Down is not science fiction or fantasy. You know what I mean? It's not an analogy. Oh, I can't remember the word. It's like a specific term for like, it's telling you something. I'm not going to remember. So anyway, I know what the word is. I just don't remember at the moment. So anyway, but I finished it. Yay! So that's one more of the currently reading titles down. And if that wasn't enough, I really thought that was all I was going to finish. But I actually, even after last week saying there's no way I can finish this, I finished Outline Alphabet's 100 complete fonts. Yes! I did a couple, I think I only had about 14 left. I did a couple on one day, and then there was one day that I just kept doing them throughout the day. And I'll admit, I stayed up really late to finish it because I was like, it would feel so good to finish this because in a way it's the hardest title I've had to read or I've had to work on or to complete for this challenge. And being this close to the end of the challenge and having something that wasn't a sit down and read title was also kind of like, am I going to be able to find the time to work on this? So I just decided one day to gun for it. So let's see. The last set of alphabets. I did not always do a good job. Oh, wow. Both of the J's in different ways. And the S's. Gee, I mean, how do I not? There was one really narrow S that helps me learn a little bit about the structure of S. I just feel like it's not like any of the other letters. Like it has some elements of C in it. This one's very blocky. And I thought I was going to give myself a pass on anything that was super, like there's, again, this one doesn't have anything super distinctive. Maybe that K. You don't always have that. The sort of chevron plus an I. And H's too. It's embarrassing. They're in my name. I write them all the time. Here's another one. Ooh, this one feels a bit Art Deco. So I definitely had some challenges with this one. And the A was very unusual. I almost did it again. I'm like, nope. I don't have the time. The H, it's very unusual to have sort of like a lowercase h styling for a capital H. This one was only capital letters, so I included the numbers. I ditched doing the numbers quite a while ago. I like the R. But these have a lot of like very big slopes on the side. You know? Is that a B? That's a very unusual B. And they're more blocky. They're a lot blocky, but the outside block is very similar. Did I do O twice or is that a D? I think that's a D. The D and the O are very similar. I don't actually see the difference. Anyway, so, oh, I love the X. Did you see the X? That's a great design. X's are not too hard. I find they have a certain rhythm to them. Sort of one side tends to be thicker than the other. A lot of the letters is simply following, this is not a good example, but a lot of the letters is simply following the proportion. So like the E and the F are almost exactly the same. So it's having this width be consistent and having these spaces be consistent. I didn't do those consistently. That's a pretty standard. The W is a bit different. I didn't quite get the M or the N quite right. It's okay. It's okay. We have this one. This one's got some style to it. Look at the Q. All caps again. So that was helpful because it's less letters. So I did the numbers. I like the J. I like the M and the M and the V. All of these are great. Oh, all of these are great. This is a good one. I like this one a lot. This one looks like it says Washington outline. Yeah, interesting stuff there. Oh, this one's a bit of a stout, regular typeset type one. So that S, I don't know. It looks like a stencil. Especially the Q looks like a stencil. But see, yeah, the X, often it's like one bar. One side is one thickness and the other side is another thickness. And you just have to make sure that these are a continuation of that line without going through. And that all, like, and same here. And that the lines are parallel to each other. I sometimes do the X's without even looking because it's like once you get the thickness of the two lines and the angle in the top, I'm like, and the bottom just is a continuation. So, ooh, so this one's a bit wide. Look at that G. I gotta say, lowercase g's that are more like typesetting, not the easiest. Although this one started off really stout, or maybe it's just the capitals that are stout, and then the lowercase doesn't. Oh, that one. Okay, that X was not great. G. But that's not how we write it in handwriting. That is literally what a typewriter does. Anyone else? use a typewriter to learn how to type. I actually learned on the computer, but I did have typing. I did take a class that was typing, and it was a whole bunch of type, and they had cases that they would put like a not a case, but it's like a small shelf, and so that you would put it over your hand so you couldn't see. I've been a touch typist since like a long time. This one's got a very, I don't know. Oh, that G I did a pretty good job on. It's very smooth. Oh, the Q and the W. Yeah, it's got some interesting stuff to it. I like the M too. Yeah. But some of the letters, like T, is there's only a certain amount of variations. Not a lot of thought goes into T. Sadly. Oh, and this is the last one. I posted this on Instagram, I think, this week. This is the last one, and I was so thrilled to see that it was so simple. I was beyond happy, and I'm like, this is it. I actually don't know if I knew it was the last one, but like, look at those, like the M and N's, like the two different N's, complete different, and this one had, I don't know if the uppercase and lowercase were separate. Well, no, sometimes it has two versions for a letter, like A. This is a traditional lowercase, a traditional uppercase, but sometimes it didn't. G and M and Q, there was only one. I was not complaining because it was the last one, so my goodness gracious, I finished it. And it's not the longest on my currently reading, but it's the longest that I've been consistently working on. I started it in December 2019, and it was more of an idea, like, wouldn't it be interesting if, that's my speculative fiction, art projects, but and to be honest, I ended up, because I was doing a lot of bullet journaling type stuff at the time, and I thought it would be an interesting way to incorporate and learn about new letters. But like, to be honest, I have taken typography, like I took it at art school, so like I understand how letters work in a lot of ways, but like doing the practice is completely different than understanding or taking a class at some point, like lots of years ago. So was it the smartest thing to stick to it? I mean, like, probably not. But I did it, and I was happy that in the past little while, it's gotten me more consistently to the page or to the table in terms of spending time on like art type things, and that has been something that I have been missing. So I'm hoping to continue that. I probably won't in these next 2 weeks because I want to get these books read, or maybe I should. You know what I mean? It doesn't have to be a lot of time. Like for me, just making sure the desk is clear, which is this desk that I film on. This is the desk that I do art on or do journaling on, and it makes such a difference. So like I still have tons of pages, and this isn't even my original thing. Like this is like a sketch, drawing. I don't even like, I was doing some life drawing stuff. Oh, you have to be careful with life drawing. Oh, it's all gesture drawing and stuff. I don't even remember. That was for a class at some point. I don't know. But I'm like, I couldn't find my notebook that I was doing, and I'm like, well, just anything that has pages. And like this has about, I don't know, I'd say about like 10 pages left. There's no reason not to just keep whatever, draw that plant, draw this pinwheel. I mean, that's not going to be easy. But, I'll learn something. It's important to just keep up the practice. So hopefully I will do that. But as I said, right now, the theme is stay the course. And to go further on that theme, I did not have any starts this week. I thought that I would start Haunted Campers, but I'm like, no. It's like, I don't care that it's, how many pages? 128 pages. And it's got like 8 stories. And I mean, like, sure, this is great seasonal. I do horribly at seasonal stuff. Like, there's so many things stick on my currently reading because I didn't finish them in the season. So for the past 2 years, my goal has been not to read any seasonal things. I usually fail in October. And sometimes I actually accidentally read something summery in the summer. It doesn't do anything for me. It's not what brings me to understand, love, appreciate, and be in the season. Reading doesn't do that for me. It does that for so many people, and I see how much joy it brings them. But for me, it's just there's no correlation. So it's just better for me to not do it. So I decided not to read Haunted Campers. I also have like 13 pages left in Learning to Draw, Drawing to Learn, and I'm like, nope, not doing it. So no starts, almost no continues on non-currently reading stuff, but that's not completely true. I have been continuing to read Persona 4, and I'm now on volume 8. I finished volume 7 last week, and I think I started volume 8, but I actually haven't even finished it yet. I have read it a couple times, but I've only gotten sort of 10 pages, and I read it through my library, and my internet has been a little laggy a little bit, and so it just hasn't been loading. I've been trying to read it and the pages aren't loading, so I will continue. I had to end up renewing it, so but I am continuing to enjoy the series. And same thing exactly with Diary of an 8-Bit Warrior. Persona 4 I'm reading with Dai's Monochrome Manga Club. It is their they read 2 a month for this, and so I'm really excited to hear what people thought of this one. And I really enjoyed 7. I wasn't sure where things were going, and then there was a bit of and I was like, so I'm like, okay, so I really want to see next. So it's really frustrating that I just kept on refreshing my screen and nothing was happening. So anyway, so continuing to read Persona 4, Volume 8, and then I'm also continuing Diary of an 8-Bit Warrior, Crafting Alliances by Kid, illustrated by Saboten. So this is a kid's it's a graphic novel series, I guess, and they're all based on Minecraft. And again, the pages are loading slowly, and I'm reading it slowly. Every once in a while I get 8 pages read. I had to renew that as well. It is the slowest read. It's for me, it's just ridiculous. But that's okay, because I am honestly spending my time reading honestly, I think I've been reading this 4 or 5 weeks. Persona 4 Volume 8, at least I started it last week and haven't finished it yet. I'll finish it by the end of the weekend. But this one, I'm just at a bit of a loss. It's just genuinely not my priority. Anyway, and then in terms of the currently reading titles that I'm continuing to read, I am, of course, reading Tess of the Dubervilles by Thomas Hardy. I have finished another section. I have about 150 pages left of this, and it's over 2 sections. I think I'm in good shape with this one. It will be a consistent, sort of 20 pages of reading every day. I think I can manage that. I am in it. I'm not loving it. There are so many things I'm like, oh, really? It's just not. It's very woe is me, and I think and piney and melodrama, the worst thing that can happen will happen, and some of the it's just not a good fit. Well written. I mean, yeah, but not enjoying it. But, and I'm into my second week of reading Darker Shade of Magic. I want to say, am I not enjoying it? It's just not for me. I'm not the audience, and I will have to figure out a better way of picking titles so that I don't fall into reading 600-page classics that are not for me. I don't mind reading 600-page classics. I don't actually intend to for a long time, but I think I need to get a bit better at choosing which ones to pick. Sorry, I went ahead and then came back. So with Tess, it's just but I will finish it. But the one I'm most concerned about is now actually A Darker Shade of Magic by V.E. Schwab. So this is the first in the, is it the Gathering of Shadows series? Is that what it's called? It's a trilogy. And I read a fair amount this week, and I'm on page 112 of my version's 400 pages. And so I have 288 pages left. Now, I'm enjoying it. It's a fantasy novel. It's and I've read other V. Schwab stuff before. I've read the Monsters of Verity series. That might be it. I feel like there's something else, but it might actually be this when I first started it in 2017. So this is originally I thought it was fantasy but it's a little bit more like, it is fantasy, but it's a bit more like urban historical fantasy in a way, I would say, because it is centered in somewhere in this earth, sort of. And I love urban fantasy. Historical urban fantasy depends on things. I don't know. But anyway, I can tell that I'm reading this a little too fast for my comfort speed in terms of fantasy. I tend to read a fantasy novel like more like 3 months, 6 months, and I'm trying to read it in 3 weeks. And I think my reading experience will suffer, and I think I will persist and finish it by the deadline. And I know that that's not the best decision. I know I should just extend it. But the thing is, I have other stuff that I want to read. Like, literally, I have like a pile of books over there, and I have 2 buddy reads coming up. So and also this does have some stuff that I find upsetting, and I wasn't expecting that. Because one of the challenges that I have with what I've noticed in terms of my reading over time over the past couple of years is that if I really want to retain the story, I need to read it earlier in the day, like late afternoon, early evening is sort of best, or early in the morning if I happen to wake up early, which hasn't happened in a long time. But if I leave it till the end of the day, I am not going to remember details, and I'm not going to remember characters. I'm not going to remember certain incidents. It's just, I'm not thrilled about that, but I know it to be true. And there are certain genres that are exceptions to that, and certain authors that are exceptions to that because I have read them a lot of times. Like in particular, some authors that I've read over the years many times, as well as urban fantasy and romance are no problem. Fantasy, it's sort of hit and miss. And I think with this one, because I did read it once late at night, and I was like, sort of remembered it, but also it had some situations, some very tense situations that I wasn't expecting that hadn't happened yet in the book. So I was like, oh. So now I've realized I probably shouldn't read it at night, which loses me out on some reading time. So I have to be really careful and make sure I get a fair amount of pages in early in the day. So it is really interesting. It is really well written. I am enjoying the characters, but I am a little sad that there is some really tough stuff that's happening. And I'm just getting a little frustrated, like generally, that I feel like so many fantasy series do have like X amount of like violence or threatening people or kidnapping people or whatever it may be, and I'm like, I just don't want to read about that, and I just, this doesn't necessarily have all that. And I don't mean like action adventure fighting in the moment. I mean like intentionally harming people because you want to, or because you can. I don't even actually ever want to read that in any genre. And I know it's always or usually used to show someone is a bad person or the villain or whatever, but I'm just like, I just don't want to read it. So anyway, so I'm having a little bit of trouble with this one with that. And honestly, I have so many pages, 288 pages left. That's a lot of pages over. Like, I actually want to finish kind of like a week today, but I am giving myself till Halloween, but it's really the 30th because Halloween is Halloween. So I don't want to have to be reading on Halloween. So anyway, so I honestly think I'm not I don't know. We'll see how things go. But I am going to get to, for this next while, I'm going to really be careful on having dedicated reading time probably every day. I usually like to take some days off, but I think we're in it for the long run, or for not the long run, the short run, and I think it just needs to be done to get those numbers in. I also I did get back to The Iron Warrior Returns by Michelle Willingham. This is my last romance novel I'm currently reading. I read a huge chunk of that yesterday, and I'm down to, I think, 37 pages left. So I'm in really good shape with that, and hopefully we'll finish it very soon. So I'm down to 3 titles. And 3 titles and a week and a half. And Tess, I have 147 pages. Darker Shade of Magic, I have 288 pages. And The Iron Warrior Returns, I have 37 pages. So it's really going to be Tess and Darker Shade of Magic. And I might just split the difference in terms of like 1/3 of the time read Tess, 2/3 of the time read Darker Shade of Magic, and just that, because that's sort of the ratio of how many pages I have left, and it's actually literally, it's very close because it's like 140 and 280 or something, so math is helpful. Anyway, so yeah, so I am, you know, as I said, it's like one of those things. I know it'd be smarter to give myself more time with Darker Shade of Magic, and I know I won't do it because I want to finish. I want to be done. I want to be on to the next thing. I want to tie this up with a bow. Some of the things I didn't do perfectly, Outline Alphabets I sure didn't do perfectly, and I felt amazing when it was done. It's not the best, but sometimes we're not at our best, you know, and sometimes, I mean, I do feel like for me, finishing on time is more of a priority than enjoying the read. And that's not usually the choice I would make. And I think actually because it has some tougher stuff in it, it made that choice easier. If I was like just being completely enraptured by the world and just loving every minute of it, and there were like, you know, it was the kind of fantasy that was like talking animals and like magic coming, like growing nature magic and stuff, I'd be like, well, actually, I'd probably already be done. But like this one, it is darker. There is tension. There are people that are not nice. This less and less my favorite. Like, I know there needs to be conflict in story, but I'm like, eh. And I'm not saying it's bad. It's just I'm learning my tastes, and I'm realizing this might not be a good fit for me anymore or for now. So, but I will finish it. I will finish it. Will I finish it on time? Hard to tell. So, that was a lot of talking. I do hope to have a TV video up on Sunday. I may or may not do it just because of time. I'm really trying to make sure I get my reading time in. I'm trying not to game as much or get sucked in. I have a new thing I'm trying to do in game, and I'm trying not to get sucked into that because, I mean, seriously, you know, what is it, 10 days? No, 11 days. 11 days to go. Not the time to get distracted. So I'm going to stay the course. So hopefully I will have a TV video up on the weekend. If not, I'll be back next Friday. I did do a book haul last week, which was so much fun. I know it was a long video. This was a long video too. I think that happened. I got a new video card. But these videos have been quite long, but I've been really thinking and processing stuff. So I think that lends to that. So yeah, sorry that I am the same length as a sitcom or longer. Hopefully things will be shorter in the future. Thank you so much for watching. I will be back soon with another video. 1 week to go. I want to do it. We'll see how it goes. Thanks so much for watching.